Cobra.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Livestream / podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, and this is Gin Promotions. Glad to join you today on a Wednesday. I'm here joined with one and only Chuck Parker, actually my neighbor out here in East Lansing. Great guy, great buddy of mine. Chuck, how you doing today, bro?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing amazing. So basically, we're going to talk about the UEFA EURO 2020. Basically, it got, for people that are interested or people that have been watching it, following it, it got postponed last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we're in the thick of it. So they're calling it the 2020, even though it's 2021. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about the different groups. We're going to go in group by group, kind of see what we're looking at here. But yeah, let's talk about the group stage. What have you been taking away from the games, and are you impressed with what you've seen so far amongst these teams?
Yeah, for sure. There's some teams obviously you expect to be dominant, and the Italians rode a huge winning streak into the Euros and haven't lost since, 3-0 in the group. Albeit it was a pretty easy group, but I'm still very impressed with what I've seen with them. Yeah, I think it's pretty chalk most of the way around. No huge surprises anywhere in the group stages. I think the teams we thought were going to get out got out. Poland, you would think, is maybe one of the bigger disappointments with Lewandowski and failing to get a win. But I think pretty chalk group stage.
Yeah, you mentioned Poland, and I was watching them pretty closely too, because I'm actually half Polish, half Italian, so I kind of split my fandom between Poland and Italy, and that was very disappointing. I saw some fire out of Lewandowski today, and it was just too little, too late, I think, and he kind of showed that he was capable of scoring the goals that he had to in clutch moments, but it was too little, too late. Not enough time left on the clock. And I think the dynamic change from him playing at Bayern Munich and then playing for Poland, the national team, I think is a big shift for him. And I think that might be too much of a shift where maybe he doesn't have the chemistry with his countrymen, maybe as much as he does with Bayern Munich, because he obviously clicks with Bayern Munich, one of the best strikers in the world, as many of the commentators say, and as a lot of people know. Soccer fans all over know that. But yeah, more or less very, not a very great performance by Lewandowski, as you can see, based on the group stages, based on the games. Some of the games were easily winnable, and they just didn't click. They didn't win. So it is what it is. They're going to be packing their bags and going back preparing for club ball. But it is what it is. Yeah, I would definitely consider that one to be one of the biggest upsets of the UEFA Euro 2020. But it is what it is. Anyone else you're looking at? Who's your biggest team that you're following right now?
I love the Italians. I bet them to win it all before this all started. They have an incredible winning streak, and this Italian team is so different than any other Italian team. Back when they were winning the World Cups and the Euros in the early 2000s, they were super defensive. They were gonna make you fight them for any win, but now they have these great playmakers across the field, and they're just so fun to watch. It's so different from what you come to expect from Italy, and they've really grown and embraced this role. They've got Immobile up top, who is playing phenomenally. They've got a very, very talented midfield. I think they're a very fun team to watch. And then obviously you have to keep an eye on England. Everybody's saying it's coming home, but I don't know. England's got a tough road ahead of them.
Yeah, they do. I know Raheem Sterling's been scoring the majority of their goals. They've went 1-0 in the last couple of games. Harry Kane's been quiet though. What's up with Harry Kane? Have you been following him? What's going on with him? Is he having a similar kind of Robert Lewandowski maybe-esque experience within the Euro 2020? Because I mean, he clicks with Tottenham. He clicks. He's the man. But when it comes to international football, it's a little bit different. Have you seen the same thing with Harry Kane, and what's going on with him, do you think?
England's tough to get a read on. A lot of their commentators, a lot of people in English football are very over dramatic. I think it's hard playing up top alone. He's playing the sole striker in a 4-4-5-1, so he's asked to do a lot. I think he's going to be asked to be a lot more of a hold-up player than the true goal scorer. If he's going to score something coming in the box, they're relying heavily on, you said, Raheem Sterling, their other outside players in that formation, because it's going to come from the width. I think they really need to loosen up. From what I've seen and heard, they're playing it really tight, just swinging it around the back. They're not being decisive, and can't win games if you can't score goals. So they're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Bringing it in from the width and bringing it into that sole striker. A lot of times those midfielders are either going to have to sag into defense, or they're going to have to play a dual role as a part-time striker. So it's difficult to kind of play that dual role. But I think in that type of formation where you have that sole striker in Harry Kane, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to depend on other players to either lead up or to sag back, and there's got to be communication within that midfield to really make that happen. And it all comes down to team chemistry and communication. So we'll see what happens with England. I got high hopes for them. I got them going pretty far. So we'll see what happens.
They've got a tough draw getting Germany. I mean, for a second there, it all happened today. The knockouts were finally, we can talk about this later, but at one point England was going to have Hungary. And for that 15-minute span, the whole country of England was partying in the streets, because having Hungary compared to Germany in the first round is huge, especially because we'll probably get to it later, but they have a pretty easy route into the semis if they can just get past Germany.
I know, yeah, and then Hungary gave Germany a hell of a fight today.
Yeah,
Finishing 2-2, but that late goal by Germany really sealed it and sealed the fate for both Germany and Hungary. So that was big.
mm-hmm. And at one point, England almost had France. Like, you don't want the World Cup winners coming in to face you in the round of 16. Like, that's just, you're asking trouble, because that French team they're the favorites for a reason.
Oh yeah, they're the real deal. They're the real deal.
Talent all across the field.
They really do, and they're really strong. They got a lot of strong players that have been in the league for a while, play for a lot of prominent clubs. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Let's take a look at the standings right now. Let's look at Group A going off the top here. Let's take a look at the screen. I'll go to the screen share mode here. Let's look at Group A. Obviously, Italy has played 3, won 3. They're sitting at the top of Group A, most recently beating Wales 1-0. Wales is shortly behind them. They were both, that was more or less a constellation formality game that happened yesterday or the other day to really make that, kind of sealed as far as the standings for Group A. It was mostly between Switzerland and Turkey fighting for that third place spot to qualify. So if you notice this, for people that follow the Euro, the UEFA Euro 2020, it's kind of interesting. So you get 16 teams, but there's obviously, how many groups are there, Chuck? Is there 5 groups?
Letter F goes, what's the letter F? Is it 6?
D, E, F, G. Yeah, A, B, C, D, E, F. 5.
Yeah, so 5
right?
groups.
Yeah, jeez, taking me back to preschool.
Yeah, for sure.
But, hey, that's all right. So if you notice, you're going through the groups, we'll get into this in a second, but some groups have 2 people that qualify, or 2 teams that qualify rather, and other groups will have 3. So it depends on the strength of the group, depends on points, obviously, and things like that. So to break it down for everybody, a win for a team is 3 points, a draw is 1 point, and if you lose the game, it's obviously 0 points. So Italy's looking good. Wales has a chance. Gareth Bale is still trying to find himself. Hasn't really been too loud, too boisterous thus far. And it's kind of similar, amongst a lot of these teams, that they don't have other prominent strikers with them. It kind of brings them down and puts a lot of pressure on them. And it's like they're the sole striker. They're the spotlight's on them. And I don't know if the pressure gets to them in a stage such as the Euros, but it seems to be the case, so far. And it's just one of those things. So we're going to look at these 3 teams. Switzerland's obviously a strong team too, strong contenders. So they'll be looking for some wins going down the stretch. Let's look at Group B now. Obviously, Belgium won 3. They got 9 points in at the top of Group B right there. And they're looking really good. Belgium is the real deal. They're obviously a contender as well, a world-class team. What do you think about Belgium? Have you been following Belgium too much or at all?
Yeah, I mean, they came into this the FIFA world number 1, so they have high expectations, obviously. And then Romelu Lukaku, ever since he had some bad years club recently, then he went to Inter Milan this year, and he's just back to being a goal-scoring beast. I wouldn't be surprised if Belgium's primed to make a long run. I wouldn't be surprised they're going to do it on the back of Lukaku. He's going to be up there for the Golden Boot. He's a beast. You have the best playmaker in the world in Kevin De Bruyne in the attack. The only thing I would worry about is their backline's old, but I mean, only conceding 1 in the group stage. It might be a weakness, but it's not a big one.
100%. Very well said. Lukaku has been a world-class striker for a long time now, and to have the size that he has, along with the speed that he also possesses, is something that is very much unmatched looking across the league, both in club teams and internationally. So he is going to be a serious threat. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne as well in the forefront. So they're going to be a threat. Let's take a look at Denmark, though. So Denmark, I call it a comeback story, as you can read at the bottom of your screen for those watching right now. It's a comeback story because I know a lot of you have heard of the Christian Eriksen debacle where he fell unconscious towards the end of the first half in the first day of games. And it was tragedy. It could have been tragedy. He's now fine. He's recovering. He's at home. But that was a scare. I don't know if you were watching that game. I think they had to be playing Finland, I think. Did you see that game?
I was not. I came I came back right because I was planning on watching it because I was busy and I thought I'd be back right before halftime. And then when I got there, so the game was postponed, and I didn't know why. Like most people did who weren't watching, so there was not a lot of media coverage. I mean, there was a ton of media coverage, but it was like Christian Eriksen collapsed. I didn't know the full how serious it was until probably an hour later. Like he was getting resuscitated for 20 minutes. Like it was just a really scary sight. Something you don't like to see. I mean, obviously he's a world class player, also at Inter Milan. So that's what you have to think. Like how hard it would have been for Lukaku to come back out. I mean, obviously he scored just to show like how focused, locked in he is right now. But it's really good for Denmark to get out because they ended up playing that game like 2 hours after the accident, and then you could just tell that they didn't want to be there. Their minds are somewhere else. So it's really good for Denmark to get out of the group, and I think they made Eriksen pretty proud.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Eriksen is very proud of his teammates just to see how they did. And I remember I wasn't watching the game specifically. I was watching it in and out. I was doing some errands around the house and, folding laundry, doing things like that. And then I heard some pandemonium in the other room because the volume was loud on my TV. And I heard that somebody had went down, and it was a big deal. They had paramedics coming out on the field and stuff. And I was glued to the TV after that. And it was a shocking sight to, and they had the camera all over the action. There are people putting CPR on them, giving them chest compressions. It was very scary stuff, and it's nothing that I would want any team or any, competitor to go through. And especially someone like Christian Eriksen, it'd be a tragedy to see that happen to anybody. But Christian Eriksen, to see a player of his magnitude, that he touches players and teams of every magnitude and across the league, all kinds of players would have been affected, and they were affected by this unfortunate event. Like you said, Romelu Lukaku of Inter Milan, a teammate of his. There's teammates that he has all over the place, and he's played for various clubs. Obviously Tottenham and Inter Milan being the most two recent ones. But it was a shocking sight. But I'm glad to hear that he's okay. And Denmark pulled off the win 4-1 against Russia yesterday, I believe. So that was a big win. That was a big win for Denmark to have, the 20-year-old come out and, really set the tone. He took Christian Eriksen's spot. His name is escaping me at the moment, but he did what he had to do. And there was other, things that happened throughout that game to really make that impact and to seal the win and seal their bid for, the round of 16. So really impressive stuff. I'm proud of the Denmark squad for pulling it out and really making it happen. So we'll see how they do in the round of 16 in the knockout stage. And I wish them all the best. So let's move on to Group C. Netherlands sitting at the top of Group C with Austria and Ukraine following. North Macedonia got knocked out. What are we looking at in Group C? How do you feel the strength of the Netherlands? How do you see them faring against other teams in other groups?
I think Netherlands is a wagon. I was hesitant on them coming in. I mean, you lose Van Dijk, and he's just such a beast in the back. So like, how are they going to shore that up? But as the stats show, they rolled through this group. I'm pretty confident in them going forward. They got a great squad. Memphis Depay, he was touted as a wonder kid, and then I think he didn't fail those expectations for a little bit. But I mean, he's come back really strong, and he is a great player. Gigi Wijnaldum or whatever, I can never pronounce it. He's so good in the midfield, and they've got a really good squad. I think they're primed for a deep run.
Yeah, so the things I look for, obviously looking at, the star players, Wijnaldum, Dumfries, and Memphis Depay, obviously, to, kind of hold down that offense, score goals, and get the ball where it needs to be. But the thing I look for, even more than goal scoring, I look for team chemistry. How are you moving the ball? How are you passing the ball? What is your possession percentage? Things of that nature. There's a lot of things like that go into it. Obviously, you got to score goals to win games. That's obvious. But you're not worth anything if you don't have team chemistry. You don't have good movement of the ball within, your own third, especially, and moving on to the opponent's third. So it's really important to have that team chemistry, and that's what will get you into, later stages, the quarterfinals, the semis, things like that. So we'll see how that fares going forward. But yeah, the teams with the best chemistry will make it the furthest. That's pretty obvious. So that brings us to Group D: England, Croatia, the Czech Republic, and Scotland. Scotland got knocked out. I was pulling for Scotland, especially against England. That was obviously a huge rivalry match that they haven't seen each other in a while. And just to see them fight it out in Glasgow, it was an amazing sight. It was pretty cool to watch that and to see the true, that was the first fixture, the first two international squads that ever seen the pitch. And that set the stage for other countries all around the world to, create their own international squads. And that's really impressive stuff. I mean, that brings you back to the early days of, soccer, and it's crazy. So Scotland got knocked out, unfortunately. That game went 0-0, which that was a
0-0 win for Scotland. Scotland won that game.
Yeah, it was. They were playing on their heels. Yeah. They took the point and got out of there. Obviously, it wasn't enough going forward into Group D for their 3 games they played. But listen, I think that's a big win. I think that made their entire Euros just even if it's a draw. People look at soccer, they're like, wow, aren't they going to play overtime? Football and American football, you play overtime. Obviously those can end in a tie too. But basketball, hockey, there's shootouts. A lot of games, it's tough to end them in a tie, and it's tough for people to wrap their head around games ending in a tie. But that was a win. That draw was a win for Scotland, as you said. So, but England, though, they got to figure it out. Their team chemistry, I feel like, is a little bit off right now. And they're counting on too few of players to really hold the entire weight of the team. So let me see. Who does England have going forward? They have Germany. So Germany, we'll get into them in a second. We'll talk about the different matchups for the round of 16 after this, but we'll talk about Germany in a second. But Croatia, obviously, Luka Modric and all the other itches of that team.
Ton of them.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. They're pretty much all of them are ending IC. So really impressive stuff. I'm very impressed with Croatia. They had to figure it out. That last game, they really figured it out against Scotland, got the win. But they're going to need to bring it a little bit more if they're going to want to make it into further rounds. But what are your takeaways from the Group D finals?
Croatia, it kind of escapes everybody's mind, but they were the runner-up at the last World Cup. They've got a team. I think they'll definitely need, I think in 2018, they kind of caught magic in a bottle with that run. Won a lot of games in penalties. So, this team has, and it's mainly the same. They still got the main peach, Kovacic, Modric, Perisic, Lovren, Vida. These are all of their veterans, and they found a way to win in 2018. So they can make something ugly here. I don't think, you're not going to watch them. You're not going to be like, wow, that's the prettiest soccer I've ever seen in my entire life. But I don't be shocked if all of a sudden you see them in the semis, and that's the team they are. They can hit that second gear, and then they'll just find a way to win, which is, I think, the most important thing in a knockout stage, especially when you see some of these young teams. Like, how are they gonna? They've been at the club level. Phil Foden from England, he's been at Man City his whole life. Few knockout games, but once you get your whole country coming at you, you have the whole country's aspirations on your back. I think Croatia's really, really suited to handle that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Croatia, they're built different. They're built with age, so they have that experience. They have that, they have those games under their belt, those seasons under their belt. They have plenty. A lot of these guys have other extensive amounts of Euros under their belt as well. So they've played in Euros before. They've played on this stage before. And they have what it takes to play and compete at this level, which a lot of these younger teams with some up-and-coming guys may not yet have that experience. So they're going to be a threat for sure. I'm looking forward to watching them going forward. And I think they found their stride against Scotland yesterday. So, I mean, you thought it was a lot of pressure before in the group stages. The knockout stage holds yourself and your team to a whole new bar and a whole new level. So we'll be looking at Croatia going forward. Obviously, England's got to figure it out a little bit. What about the Czech Republic? The Czech Republic is a little bit more undermined. You don't really, people are like, oh, the Czech Republic, yeah, they're I guess they're making it to the round of 16. But, who's really focused on the Czech Republic? What do you think?
I don't know much about the Czech Republic, to be honest. I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, they had decent loss against England. I mean, 1-0, a draw against Croatia. They played it pretty chalk. They played the group exactly how you would expect them to, losing to England, getting a point from Croatia, and then beating up on Scotland like everybody but England did. I don't expect much out of them when you get the Netherlands in the next round, which we'll talk about later, but I wouldn't want to be playing the Netherlands right now.
I would not either.
It's an unlucky draw.
It is, but they had to expect that they were going to be playing a super team in the first round of the knockout stage. So we'll talk about that in a sec. Let's get this Group E out of the way. Oh, it's going to E. It's going all the way to, oh, okay. See, my alphabet's all messed up because F comes after E. So there we go. I'm getting it. I'm figuring it out. It's been a long time since I was in preschool, first grade. So bear with me, folks. All right. So let's talk about Group E. Sweden, Spain are the ones that qualify. Slovakia and Poland are out. Spain really beat up on Slovakia today, and Sweden won a nail-biter against Poland. Let's talk about the Poland game today with Sweden. Obviously, Lewandowski, we talked about it earlier. It was too little, too late. He scored 2 goals late. There were some response goals where they went down 2 goals. They had to win the game to qualify into the round of 16. They failed to do that. It looked like it was going to be tied until Sweden scored a last-minute goal.
Very last minute.
And that was crazy. That sealed the deal. That put the dagger in all the hearts of the Polish. So what are your takeaways from that game?
I just think like Lewandowski, he should have won a Ballon d'Or at some point. He's been incredible for the past 10 years. The past decade, he's always been prolific, from Dortmund now to Bayern. It's hard playing for your country. Like, thing about Poland, he's a world-class goal scorer, but he's not the goal-scoring creating type. Like, he's not Messi, he's not Neymar, all these other wingers who are Mbappe, who will make their own chances. He needs help. And at Bayern, you have the best midfield in the world, and now he's working, a lot less. So I'm not shocked by this. I would have thought they would have probably been in the 3rd spot, maybe been one of the unfortunate couple that didn't get to qualify from the 3rd. But yeah, just ends the tournament with 3 goals, 2 today. But I know he has to be disappointed with his performance this Euro.
Yeah, you've seen them. They got the win. Or wait, I thought they got did they draw against Spain? I thought they got the win against Spain.
Yeah, I think they looks like they drew against Spain.
I think they drew, yeah. So, having 0 wins on your win column for Poland is, it's not something you expect, but once you see that, going into game 3, especially today where you got a win or you go home, you kind of see the writing on the wall. You see how they're playing, you see what's going on. They had to make a crazy shift to make that happen. You bring up a good point, how he's not the creative type to really make his own shots. It has to be served to him on a silver platter. Maybe not exactly like that. That might sound, a little bit, undermining, but he has to have the ball in his 3rd with, not a lot of space to go. He can't go from, his own 3rd, dribble it all the way up, maybe bounce it off a couple guys and, find it in the box. He likes those crosses into the box. He likes the ones at the top of the box where he can, take a long shot or, do a little move like he did today, hit him with a little finesse shot and got it in. He actually created that first goal today against Sweden, that first goal that he got. And I was pretty impressed by that. But we needed to see more of that. We need to see more creativity because obviously you don't have the midfield like you do in Bayern. So you're working a lot more. You're doing a lot more that you might not be expecting to do, where it's a little bit easier in Bayern in club football compared to international ball. So it's a little bit difficult, but you got to make it work. And obviously they didn't get the job done, so they will be going home and packing their bags. So we got Sweden and Spain out of Group E. We'll see how they do. Spain obviously had the big win against Slovakia today, 5-0. So they're going to be a threat. I think they got Sergio Busquets back after through the COVID-19 protocols.
He's old. I'm not confident in Spain. Spain's going to look like that thrashing, but
yeah,
if you look at 1 goal in the rest of the 2 games leading up, you look at their team. Like, Morata's your lead. He's your striker. How many goals are you going to get? I think, especially I think growing up, like we think of Spain, like the Iniesta, the Xavi, the Busquets. He's the only one left. He's old. Like, you don't have Xavi or Iniesta. You don't have Fernando Torres. Like, that's what I think we're stuck in this loop where we think Spain should be a lot better than they are. I think everybody else is too. Like, I could be completely wrong, which I probably am going to be, but like, you look at Spain and they don't really have an identity. Like,
yeah, you're right. You're onto something there. They're not the Spain that we saw in the 2014 Euros or the 2016 Euros, excuse me. Or no, I'm thinking 2012. 2012 is when they won it, right? Okay. I'm getting my years mixed up.
Oh wait, right?
Was it 08? No, I think it was 12.
It went
had to be
08. I think they went 08 World Cup 12.
Yeah. Okay.
They won like 3 majors in a row.
Yeah.
And that Spain team's incredible. Right. Now we're always going to be hyping up Spain. We're like, oh, they finished second. Like, I wouldn't want to see them. I would want to see Spain. I don't want to see anybody coming out of the next group we're going to talk about. I would like to see, like, if I'm another team, I would like to see Spain.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I mean, even Sergio Ramos, they don't have him anymore.
Yeah, he got left at home. And half the Spanish team isn't even Spanish. I mean, like, they're starting center back Laporte just transferred from France. I don't get how that's possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. That's something I had a question about for a long time. Maybe you could shed some light on that.
I don't know.
You don't know anything either about the like, how do you? I thought you had to either be born or be residing for an X number of years in that country to be able to play for the international squad.
I think maybe European laws are different just because, like, I know all of France's team was born. A lot of them were actually born in Africa, but France has some weird thing with their old colonies where you can just get citizenship, but you have to pick. I know, like, you can, because the United States just got some kid who could have gone Dutch. We got him, but like, he had parents. So that makes more sense to me. Like Diego Costa a few years ago he was Brazilian all his life, and then he was just a Spanish person. I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's parents, but I know that their starting center back was French for up until about this tournament.
Yeah, that's really confusing. I got to do more research on that. Let's get Group F out of the way. So obviously you got the Super Club, France, you got Germany and Portugal, and then Hungary too. Hungary, they really fought. They gave Germany a run for their money today, and they could have eliminated Germany with a win, and that was looking really good for a lot of the game. But Germany came out and pulled off a last-minute goal similar to the Sweden-Poland game. And it was really impressive to see them come out of nowhere. And it was looking really bleak. It's like, what is going on with this Germany team? You know, they won the World Cup in 2014. And they've lost a lot of players too. They lost the Mario Götzes. They've lost, the Frank Ribery's. They've lost, many guys. I can go on and on. They still have Thomas Muller. They still have Toni Kroos. They still have some guys, but they're getting old too. I think that their years are kind of, they're depending on their younger guys, and they really have to focus on the future of their team. And what does their future look like? I don't know. But obviously it was enough to win against Hungary and finish second in Group F. And they're going to be looking at England in the first round of the knockout round. But what are your takeaways from, both the France-Portugal game and the Germany-Hungary game today?
The France-Portugal game was a ref show. There was, I think, 3 of the 4 goals were PKs. A few of them were soft. I think people are looking at this group a lot and be like, you're going to, especially Germany today against Hungary. I mean, yeah, it's a different team than what we've seen before, but they did just play 2 of like probably the top 6 teams in the world in the 2 matches before and got a ton of points. You're going to slip up against Hungary. I didn't watch all that game. I bet it was ugly, but this group I think all these teams are probably in the top 10 FIFA rankings. So this was just it was gladiators fighting for 3 match days. It'll be interesting to see if they beat each other up so much that they won't be able to do much in the knockouts, or that they're going to be way more battle tested for the teams like Netherlands, who didn't really play another like contender.
Yeah, I think that all the games and all these contenders, we saw it coming. We could paint this picture, aside from watching the games today, seeing Hungary give Germany the contest they gave them, everything else that I'm seeing on the screen is textbook. It's probably how I would have written it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe I might have switched Portugal and Germany because I expected a little bit more out of Portugal than I've seen so far. And then you see the same thing with Ronaldo. You see him, he's obviously making the PKs, but he's not really creating shots. Yeah, he's 35, but we don't want to get into that. He's setting a standard for other footballers out there that you can play at an older age if you take care of your body, take care of yourself. So we'll see how this fares going into the knockout round. But I'm really excited. These games, they've been really good. They've gave us a lot of entertainment so far, a lot of sights to see, and a lot of things to be excited for going into the knockout round. So that brings us to the knockout round itself. So let's talk about the first game. We don't have to talk about all these games. I'll list all the games off as the round of 16 has been confirmed as of today. So we have Wales against Denmark, Italy against Austria, Netherlands versus the Czech Republic, Belgium versus Portugal, Croatia versus Spain, France versus Switzerland, England versus Germany, and Sweden versus Ukraine. Is there any games in that list, and I can review them if you want, that kind of stand out to you?
I mean, there's two. It's going to be the Belgium-Portugal game on the 27th, and then England-Germany. Belgium-Portugal is just going to be. I mean, it's obviously the biggest names, probably biggest game of names on this, but the old winners against a very, very good Belgium team, and it's just going to be interesting to see because I think in that little quadrant you got Belgium, Portugal, Italy, Australia. I think the winner might come out of there. I mean, you're setting up, I think, potentially a Belgium-Italy quarterfinal. And in my mind, that's got final implications, like they're two fantastic teams. And then England, I mean, England really wants it to come home. They haven't won anything in a while. Their fans are chanting it. They're screaming it. And then you got Germany, who they've got a very, very experienced coach. They're going into Wembley, but England can't score. So Germany gets one early, and you just ratchet back the defense. Where's England's goal going to come from? I think in the group stage they had about, I think they had 2 goals. Like that's, you're going to need to do a lot better. Like Southgate, that's England's coach. Like he's either going to get knighted at the end of this tournament because he brought it home, or he's getting exiled to some Scottish island. Like these England fans aren't going to mess around with the quarterfinal exit at home.
Oh my gosh, they're not going to stand for it. So I'm really excited for those games too. I think England has the opportunity of a lifetime to really, take it home. Like they haven't won anything in a long time. Obviously, they got to get through Germany, and then it's on to the next quest.
And then it's Sweden. It's Sweden or Ukraine. Ukraine's a fun team to watch. They got some little skilled guys out in the wings, but neither of those teams are dangerous. Like England can get past Germany. I would expect them to get into the semis, and that's your next hard game against probably the Netherlands, and that's winnable too. Then you're in the final at home, and that's almost. I mean, it would hurt for them, but that's all you have to do. They have to get past Germany, and I honestly don't see how it's happening from what I've seen in the group stage and all that. I don't know what the line's going to be. I'm probably going to hammer Germany, even though I do want it to come home. I just don't trust England. I think England is going to disappoint their fans, which is hilarious, obviously, because the freakouts on Twitter are going to be so funny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be hilarious and sad at the same time, but I think more hilarious. Just because, they had such high expectations. Their fans had so many expectations about them going into the Euros that itself. And then to see that they've only scored 2 goals in the whole group stage, basically riding on Raheem Sterling's back to qualify.
And then I've been playing Jadon Sancho, who had like 15 goals and 10 assists at Dortmund. He's just on the bench. If you're Southgate, you have to win that game.
You have to win the game, of course. Get past that first round, and then whatever happens after that happens. Obviously, it's going to happen however it's supposed to. But if you get past that first game, at least you give yourself a chance to go and, climb the ladder to get to get that final game in Wembley. So they'll be looking for that. Italy, Austria, I'm really not too worried about that one. Austria hasn't showed me a whole lot. Italy is complete dominance. And then I think Wales and Denmark might be a fight too. Obviously, you got Gareth Bale. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're the Netherlands, you're loving life because Denmark, I think, will get through that game. I think they'll get through Wales. Wales doesn't have enough outside of Gareth Bale, and Gareth Bale isn't the Gareth Bale he probably should be after his whole Madrid debacle the past couple of years, just not really getting good first team minutes. So if you're in the Netherlands, You got the Czechs, like we talked about, and then you got Denmark without Christian Eriksen. Like, yeah, they'll be pumped up, but I'm probably jinxing it. But like those pumped up runs, like you'll hit a brick wall, and I think that could be the Netherlands. I like Netherlands to go through to the semis.
Yeah, me too. I really like the Netherlands. I've liked them even since the Van Persie, Wesley Sneijder days.
Oh, those guys were so fun. That
Those were
2010
the
World
days.
Cup. Oh, who was that guy? He just hit like the best screamer of all time from like 35 out.
Oh man,
It
I
was
don't know.
2010 World Cup. Look it up, everybody. Whoever's
Okay,
watching,
yeah, look it up.
It is a screamer.
I'm gonna look that one up too. The goal I'm thinking about is their goal. I think were playing Spain, where Van Persie header, man.
In Brazil, yeah, when he was flying, yeah,
That was a sight to see. You gotta take a picture of that, put it on a painting, or put it on a huge portrait, and just plaster it right on your wall.
It's good to see the Netherlands. I think Croatia-Spain could be a like kind of interesting game that you're not going to really expect. But I don't know. I like the quadrant, whatever they call them, like the Belgium, Portugal, Italy, Austria one. Like there's some teams in there. You're going to get some really good games. I think Italy hopefully can breeze by. Belgium, Portugal could be a battle. But then the two that come out of that, like you're going to have a finals game in the quarters. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about that.
100%. 100%. I'm really looking forward to that too. So we'll see what happens, guys. Really, really excited going into the round of 16. We have a couple days before the next games. I think it's till Saturday. We got to wait.
Yeah, I don't know when the first
right?
one is. 26th, is that Saturday?
Yeah, I think that is Saturday. Yep. Yeah. So we got a couple days to wait. I've been loving it, man. So I've been watching the games every single day. They have the 12 o'clock games. They have the 3 o'clock games. It's hard for me to watch the 3 o'clock games because I'm usually going to the gym or, coming back. So I'll miss the first half. I'll catch the second half. But I've been loving having the international soccer every single day, man. It's been a treat. It's been a real treat. So good deal. I'm going to end with some closing remarks. So obviously we have the Corona Challenge 2 results that just happened this past Saturday. Really happy to everybody and thankful for everybody that came out on Saturday. Even in the rain, it was a great event. Really happy to have everybody there. Donnelly and Newman with the win, 64, 7 under. They came in with plus 250 odds. So if you took them, congrats. I actually had a little side bet on them. So listen, I was betting on my team. Me and Cam, we played okay, but we didn't play nearly as good as we expected to. So I might have to make a separate show just based on the Corona Challenge responses, reactions, whatever you want to do, but really happy with the turnout, and it was all for a great cause. So I'll leave it at that. Chuck, do you got anything you want to say to the audience before we sign off?
No, it was a ton of fun. Love coming here talking some footy. Love to come back for anything. It was a good time.
Great time. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate you joining us on here tonight. I'll leave it at that, though, guys. Thank you for joining us on the Gin Pros live stream / podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Have a great night.